Welcome to the Ground Up Podcast, everybody. I am flying solo today. This is Terry. I'm excited to be back with you. You're on the podcast built for entrepreneurs. We talk about life in entrepreneurship as you've built your business from the ground up, or maybe the entrepreneurial life has ground you up and spit you back out. Either way, we want to talk to those entrepreneurs, and we're excited to be back with you. And today, we are with April and Conrad. And before I say that, we're also on the podcast or the NFM Podcast Network. It should be. It's on my shirt and on the wall, so you should know that by now. Hey guys,
what's going on? How are you?
Thanks for having
good.
us.
And you guys came all the way from Southern California for this podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Flew in 24 hours.
I wanted to make it real dramatic. You guys came in from Southern California for your business, which is called Painkllr.
Yeah.
So give us or give the people, as it were, a little brief overview before we get into things.
Cool. So Painkllr, we're a media-driven experiential brand. We focus very heavily on mindset. We believe wholeheartedly that everybody's capable of doing some incredible things. It's just you have to be willing to go through challenges, embrace the hard side of life in different ways voluntarily, because it can also build you to be able to take on things that don't voluntarily come into your life.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started off doing experiences and now we're really diving into the media side, but we could probably talk about the whole story a little bit later if you have any other questions.
Oh, we're going to go deeper, don't you worry. Before we do that, we want to hear April say words.
Hi. It'll get better.
It'll get better, I swear. I swear. I saw her out there. So you guys just did workout here in Nashville last weekend, and you guys, you're systematic to your approach. You hustle. You're out there working really, really early, wet feet and all.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you're out there running around yelling at everybody.
Yeah, that's usually me. I seem quiet from a distance, but when I'm in it, I'm in it.
When the event starts.
Yeah, the moment that starts is a
One
different
more
April.
night.
Yeah.
So
She's out of the hand.
Yeah.
So let's start from scratch here. Let's start with your individual stories. So April, we'll start with you because I want to put the spotlight on you, make you super nervous.
Yes.
No, where did you start? How did you get into fitness?
Well, I never played any sports, which is surprising. But I always was kind of surrounded, I guess, in the fitness world. I started training when I was like 13, but not like weight training. I did a lot of cardio kickboxing. I took a lot of classes like that, just more fun classes that just sparked my interest at that time. And then it led into just more, what was the class that we used to take? SpeedX. Yeah. So once I started taking those types of classes, it kind of like led into CrossFit. And I just got really, really good at it.
Yeah.
Very fast. I didn't realize how competitive I was until I started CrossFit. And yeah, I don't know. I really liked, and this is a weird thing to say, I just loved the feeling of pushing myself and making myself better. It was never about the actual competition component of it.
Yeah.
A lot of it was just self-driven. There was a lot of things that I just wanted to be better at, and I just got good, and that's about it.
Conrad, would you like to speak to the amount of competitive? You knew she was probably competitive from day one.
Well, let me just tell you. She wipes the floor with me in workouts, but the moment that I come out and I get a workout in and I beat her, she's pretty salty. So, yeah, she wants to know why. And then if it happens to be maybe as something I ate or something that helped me focus a little bit better, she's like, you can't take that anymore.
No competitive edge.
Yeah, exactly.
Level the playing field.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, but no sports background. I just kind of fell into it naturally. And then once we started doing a lot of HIIT training, I kind of wanted to see what the next step was, and that led into CrossFit. I've been doing CrossFit since 2018, and I think now it's kind of dabbling into just whatever makes me happy and challenging, and right now it's running. Running is just a whole different type of component mentally, especially long distance running. So it's
I'd
just
agree with that
a fun
wholeheartedly.
training. I don't know, fun, but it depends on the person.
Yeah, it depends on the level of abuse that you want to inflict on yourself. So did you get into CrossFit because you like to compete, or did that just reveal the competitor within you?
I actually didn't even want to go. I know
yeah.
he was interested in CrossFit, and then he joined a gym, and I remember
There's a whole story about her pulling up with me to a CrossFit gym.
Yeah, we pulled up to a CrossFit gym, and of course, like the sun was setting. There's a girl in the back training by herself. She's throwing Atlas stones, and the sun is beaming down, and her abs are just like popping out.
In a parking lot, surrounded by brick. Yeah.
And I'm this tiny little person at the time, and I'm just like, you want me to do that?
Say what?
And I was just confused because I couldn't see myself doing that. And then immediately once I joined, I was like, okay, I get it. And then 2 years later, I turned into that. So it's just funny how things.
So then you pulled up, and then the sun was setting. Abs were popping.
Yeah.
You were like, this girl's
Sweat glistening.
This girl's for me. She's the one. No, I love it. All right, Conrad, how'd you get into the fitness?
I've always played sports growing up. I was never good at anything though.
Yeah.
I was just, dabbling my feet in different things. I even did kickboxing for a while. Martial arts, played basketball, not tall enough, not big enough for football, but still played the sport.
Yeah.
Then there was a gap of time where I completely distanced myself from anything active. I think not everybody, but some people go through those phases. And then when her and I had been together, just had a moment where it was really about looking at a picture and realizing maybe we need to start moving again.
Sure.
Yeah, so got moving. We took SpeedX together. I think for me on my side with that, I just noticed that we got to a point where we were ending up on the top of the leaderboard for time, and we were never increasing weight just because of the way that gym was situated.
Sure.
So then next thing I saw some guys doing CrossFit. They were snatching on the sidewalk, and I wanted to go check that out. So by the time I got to that gym, turns out that gym closed. The next closest gym was this one in downtown Los Angeles called Trojan. Went there, and the rest is history. Yeah, started training there for a while, but maybe the past year I've been really focusing on, I guess, more hybrid style now. Running a lot more, strength training, but I have this like stuck in my head that I want to do an Ironman next year. So yeah, that's I think the next goal.
That'll be. We'll get you on next year on the podcast.
See how I feel about
See how you
it.
feel about that. It's a special kind of awesome right there. I've trained a few Ironman athletes, and they blow me away. Like there's just another gear inside the brain that says, "No, yeah, I'm hurting. That was great. I want more." I'm like, why are you're such a unique personality.
We'll see if it's a one and done though.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. The question I have out of all that was, what is SpeedX?
Okay.
It's just hit training.
Yeah,
Is that what
just
it is?
imagine like an
Yeah.
F45 class,
Okay.
how that methodology is, or
just
hit
hit training.
or circuit. Yeah,
Okay, cool. I like
they
it training.
called it SpeedX. That was their brand.
Yeah.
Of it.
I mean, that's catchy.
Yeah.
So how'd y'all meet? Was this before fitness times?
Yes.
Yes.
We met in 2010.
2010. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been together for 14 years. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Long.
We both have a
I'm
different
just kidding.
story.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, you can tell your story.
My side of the story
Yeah.
first. I guess that kind of leads into
Yeah.
it. I was out of a relationship and I was in Los Angeles for 2 years, and I didn't want to meet a woman at a bar. I wanted to meet somebody that I could really get to know.
Yeah.
And I didn't want it to be that setting. So I had found out though that there was a fashion school 2 blocks away from where I was living in Los Angeles.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
It's 99% women.
Planning.
Yes.
So I enrolled
Yeah, you did.
for 3 months.
Attaboy.
Met her the first day. She was standing across the hallway, and she had this look on her face of nobody talked to me. And so
Normal.
immediately I was like, I want to talk to her. And so
Don't you tell me what to do.
yeah. And I sat down next to her, and granted, I wasn't even actually hitting on her. I was just saying hello because I was trying to be nice. And then that's where she can take the story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I guess my perspective was I saw him. I sat down. He sat down next to me. I thought he was hitting on me because there's not many males at that school. And I immediately texted my sister and was just like, ugh,
Who's this a-hole?
this guy would be hitting on me right now.
Whoa.
Eventually I brought him home, and then they were like, wait, is this the guy? I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Let's not bring it
And
up.
Turns out he's good at
But-
it.
Yeah.
good at hitting
We were
on you.
friends for about a year, and then we made it official, partially because it got to a point that she was looking at me and she's like, we don't actually have an official date, do we? I was like, yeah, I guess not, huh? So I guess I'm never obligated to get any gifts.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I need a date. This is not going to keep happening.
I love that. And you tune into this podcast, you think you're going to learn a little bit about business. That's how you date right there. That's brilliant.
strategy.
Yeah, that's like going to work at a Lululemon to find your wife right there. That's brilliant. Well, I love it. So you guys started out of all of that. I know Painkllr started as a clothing line.
Yeah.
So give me the timeline. You met, you did fashion school for 1 year. When did the clothing line start?
I guess this is actually a deeper story because of our backgrounds too.
Yeah.
So yeah, why don't you hit that?
Yeah, so I graduated from FITM. I got my associate's degree, and then I immediately went into the work field. I was doing a lot of domestic manufacturing, so I was overseeing pretty much everything from start to finish. So a lot of people don't know that I know how to construct a garment, literally from choosing the fabric to cutting it to pattern making to sewing it and to finishing and shipping and everything. So that's my background. I did that for 10 years. I did a lot of domestic manufacturing, and then I moved into high-end women's contemporary, and I did cut and sew. I started another apparel line with my previous partner, which was more on it was direct to consumer, but we were starting more of like, I guess, a green type of brand.
Sure. Yeah.
But
A little eco-friendly.
it didn't really work out as we wanted to, which will lead into Painkllr. But
Yeah. I actually came from the apparel industry, so for a while I was in. I was in the cars. So as soon as I dropped out of high school, I went into the workforce. Like Jiffy Lube was the first job. Then I got into cars for a bit. That taught me marketing, and then that led me to meet some people that showed me the apparel space. I got into skate surf industry, so I did a lot of headwear and accessory production, mainly overseas, and I did that for about a decade. But that was before I even went to the fashion school. So
Oh wow. Okay.
by the time I had gotten to the fashion school, I was just curious to find out if there was something that I could learn because I didn't have that formal training.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I think it's important to continue education anyway, even if it's, you going out and trying to figure out what information is necessary to continue on or going to a school like that. But I went there to definitely meet women, but then also see if it was something that would be good for me to find the other side of business because my experience was mainly on the production side, and I only knew a limited amount of information when it came to that, and that was my first experience with any type of business. So,
But I will say, when we were in school, he wasn't really learning much, which is also why he left.
I would beg to differ. He learned all about you.
Okay. But like being the illustrator and
Don't
stuff.
need to be here anymore.
Down. I think you learned all you needed to know, April. I'm not sure you understood his motives.
Okay, good
I learned your name, I learned your number, and I learned exactly when we're going to be meeting up afterwards. Okay.
Oh man.
Well, yeah, that's so 10 years. So you're 10 years after the fashion school?
Hold on,
When did Painkllr come into the picture here?
2018. So
February. We dropped everything then.
So I guess the 10 is still including into Painkllr in my mind. But yeah, so I just was completely miserable at my job. I was not getting along with my business partner at the time. So he knows me. I'm a usually very, very happy person. Even though I have very straight, angry face sometimes, but I am a very happy person. It would turn into a moment where I was just going home miserable every 2 weeks. I would come home crying every other day, just not happy. And then I ended up losing my creative director that I was close with for 6 years. She kind of we both went into the new business together, so I was very close with her. So that was really, really hard on me. And then during the same time,
I lost a brother-in-law.
Yeah.
But the thing is that if you saw my family dynamic, just to, I guess, frame it, I have older half siblings and they're basically the same age as her dad. So I grew up with them around me, and like the brother-in-law around me is almost, I don't want to say a father figure, but he was just there and always an older figure. And I was always playing with his kids. So yeah, that happened within, I think, just a couple months of each other. She lost her coworker that you were really close with, and then I lost my brother-in-law.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think that kind of we took a trip.
Where did we go?
I don't remember. We took a trip somewhere.
Yeah.
And then it kind of we sat down and talked to each other and kind of.
Thailand.
It was Thailand.
It was
maybe.
Thailand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just sat down and realized, is this what we really want to be doing? And in school, we worked really, really well together. We worked on a lot of projects, and we knew we wanted to start something together at some point. We just didn't know what it was. So we kind of dabbled into little projects here and there, but nothing was solidified.
Yeah.
Painkllr was something kind of on the side. We like jokingly came up with the name, and then we would work on kind of just like mood boards and stuff together, but it never became anything until after this trip.
Yeah. We were putting maybe like $100 or $200 each every month into the business account to try to create samples and ideas. And then it was November of 2017 that we filed the paperwork for an actual LLC. And then February of 2018, we just made the choice of we could either keep this as a hobby or we can really go after it if we're really that miserable with everything else going on in our lives.
Yeah, so I left my business. You pretty much shut down yours, and we went all in on Painkllr in 2018.
Yeah.
All right.
Never looked back.
We went into you're unified on a business plan, right? You've got your samples. You've set that part aside. Like, where are you at? Yeah, where are you?
I was like, business plan.
Business plan.
What business plan?
There was no business plan.
Whether it's up here or not.
That's true. An imaginary one.
Yeah. So you've got some stuff in order. You know what you want to do. How much money have you set aside at this point? Did you jump out with no dollars? Did you jump out with some money to start?
Yeah. So we had a little bit of a runway. We knew that we could sustain at our current spending every month, including rent, just essentials, and then still being able to also go out and do what we wanted to do to keep a normal life for about a year and a half. If that gives you any idea, just like to know that we had that. But that gave us a year and a half to figure out also what we were going to do with the business, because we couldn't invest any money into the business to have that long of a runway. What ended up happening is we took I want to say half of that cushion, and we tried to invest it into what we were doing over time. And then we had the rest to just try to live on. That runway disappeared really quick.
Usually
didn't last long.
Yeah, it didn't last long. Shoot, where are we going with that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's this again with the whole theme of the podcast is that.
Yeah.
Right. Like the best intentions, you start out. You take your nest egg and you've got this investment. So you're investing in yourself. I mean, some people are out there investing in a franchise or whatever it is. It's it typically takes longer than what they think.
Oh yeah.
And it's always more expensive than you think.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got to have there's got to be money for trial and error for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing we realized when we got into that is that we know apparel is an expensive business because of how we've seen startups operate, the brands that we had also done production for, and then on her side, seeing it from starting the brand to getting it into retailers, what type of cash that requires. And we thought that maybe we could bootstrap it, but it got to a point that we had to make an honest choice about whether we were going to continue with the apparel or what started about 3 months into the business. So from February, I think our first event that we ever decided to throw was what?
2019?
May.
Yeah, it was the Trojan
Painkllr
one.
Throwdown. That's what we called it at the
Oh,
time.
I love that.
Yeah. It's Painkllr Throwdown.
So CrossFit.
Yeah. Well,
It was CrossFit.
yeah. Actually,
Very
that
CrossFit
was
at
done
the time.
because of a pivot too.
Yeah.
It was done because of the fact that nobody was responding to us. We were trying to get product into people's
No
hands so
one
that way
wanted
we
to
could
wear
market
it.
it. No one cared. Yeah.
Yeah, so we were like, okay, what's a way that we can get athletes to come and wear our stuff? We're like, oh, let's throw an event. They have to wear the shirts then. So it's kind of how we started off this whole experience event type of situation. We didn't know at the time that was going to be the goal. It was kind of more of a marketing play for us at the start.
Yeah.
I think the apparel, when we started, it was hard for me because my background was in domestic manufacturing. So I thought that was the only way we had to go. And I think that's where a lot of the cash went in the beginning. But it's so expensive to produce domestically, just cut and sew and everything versus just finding good contracts everywhere else or contractors.
But I think this is also like part of the piece that maybe I didn't step forward strong enough, because think about this. We were looking at it from the costing perspective of, we can do lower runs here. We probably can control a little bit more because now our hands are on everything, versus my experience with Asia. Quantities are higher, but it's the skill set and what they have on a production side and a manufacturing side, that some of that equipment is just, and skill does not exist here in the United States. And so you can do some really great product from Asia as long as you know how to communicate to them what it is that you're trying to accomplish. But we didn't do that. We kept it all domestic. But
for now, the apparel's kind of not really gone. We kind of flex with our like jerseys and stuff that we do for competitors, where we can, and then maybe eventually we'll go back into apparel. But
Well, yeah, so that's the pivot, right? So before we get into what you're doing now with Painkllr, with the clothing line, in the timeline, so year and a half, your runway dries up.
Yeah.
What was that thing that started putting money back in the bank? What was the idea that started to do that? And how long did it take from, boy, this is we're going to eat ramen and Lunchables for a little while. Like, what was that transition like? How long did that last? Because someone's listening to this right now and they're in that spot.
yeah.
For sure. I think we both come from we had to definitely rely on each other and talk a lot. So why don't you kick that part off? Because I know that 2019 was.
Yeah, so the event, obviously it started off with just kind of product donations, and then we had registration. So that's kind of where we saw the money kind of come in. We didn't really get any partners at the time, but we saw that there was opportunity for that. I remember specifically at the time, because obviously the cash was running out, Con was like, we got to take a leap. We got to take it outside of a gym if we really want to show that we're more than just like an indoor in-house competition.
Yeah.
I was scared to do that because I was like, man, we broke. We can't do this.
You crazy.
But, yeah, you're crazy.
Seriously,
But
man.
honestly, it was the best decision we ever made. Because of that, and just because of the venue and people wanting to participate, that's when everything started slowly happening. And that's when we kind of started to see bigger contracts come in, just because the spectatorship and all this stuff that started happening that we didn't think about in gym. It started opening our eyes into like what we can tap into with sponsorship monies and stuff like that. I think that's kind of when we really started seeing, okay, events is kind of where we need to kind of focus on right now.
There's a lot of potential there.
A ton, man. Like we started taking on the first event, we got zero cash. Like we were just hopefully getting by, and I'm pretty sure we didn't even break even. We definitely lost money on that, but we saw it as a marketing thing. But we were taking, instead of sponsorship money, we were taking donations, in-kind donations, as to get a sponsor level with us. We did 2 events that year, and then we made the jump to Venice Beach in 2019, which also happened to be the year that entire pool of cash that we had was gone.
Yeah.
Like just like poof. And we were in a stage, just to give you an idea of how that felt. Okay.
Poof.
Yeah, gone. Because so I've been in situations like that in my life, and it was definitely one of those where I got being back there from where we were before, or where I was before, even before I met her. I was like, man, why am I back here in this type of situation again?
Yeah.
It got to a point, and I don't know how broke anybody's ever been, but I've definitely had moments where I'm sitting here trying to figure out at some point, like, how can I move this money to this account to overdraft it just so I could at least take care of something over here, because I know the overdraft fee is going to be okay as long as I could get this part over here, and then you start working down the math.
Yeah.
Like I've been at like that type where I'm just moving things around, but to be at this point again, and then April also going through it with me, that sucked. But it was a moment where we just looked at each other and we communicated and said, this is going to get really tough, and we've got a couple choices. We could either continue to make sure that we try not to let the outside stress affect what's going on here, and that if there is anything we need to talk about, or if there is anything that's bothering, or ideas that we think are going to be the best move forward, it's for the brand, it's for the business, because that's going to support us. And so we just need to figure it out.
Yeah, that's another lesson for the listeners right there. Like, protect the partnership.
Yeah.
100%. And I think he's always been really good at calming me down, because sometimes if I'm obviously stressed in situations like that, impulsive decisions happen versus things that make sense. And I think one thing that we, I guess, just never let up on was we always made sure that the experience that we're throwing, no matter what, we'll never just go cheap on it. And I think because we did that and held to that, that's exactly why we were able to kind of continue to growing. That's why 2019, there was one event that was planned. We just didn't have any more money.
Yeah.
We were maxing out credit cards.
We held it to the point that our bank account couldn't hold it.
Literally maxing out credit cards. And I remember he was like, hire a DJ. I'm like, we don't have money to pay a DJ. He's like, well, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
My famous words.
And then I remember, I think 3 days before the event, some random company was like, hey, we can give you guys a loan of $7,000. We're like, just take it. We got to pay these people somehow.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. And it helped throw the event. We ended up paying everyone. And because of that
There's
event.
a little bit backstory, too, with all this about why that event was so important.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can touch on that.
Okay. So we couldn't afford the dog food sometimes that month. We were debating about whether or not, like, basically we were using Ticket Tuesdays because you buy one get one free to keep a sense of normal between us.
Yeah.
We would go out to eat and we would find these really cheap places that we knew we could get a full meal for maybe like $25 for the both of us. But just because we use those as moments of kind of like dating, it helped us get through those times a little bit easier versus just sitting inside of this apartment wondering how we're going to get things to go.
Yeah, just vacillating on pain.
Yeah, exactly, man. And so what happens when we made the move to Venice Beach, we had one partner come in, and before they even asked us what we're thinking for in cost, they gave us their budget. And we got excited. We were like, we need to make sure that we can do this. In reality, we were just needing to get off the phone because we were like, yeah, exactly. So it was the first time that we actually, so basically the sponsorships went from, just a couple $100. And this was the first time that somebody offered us 5 figures.
Yeah.
And so when we saw that number, we got back on the phone. We said, yeah, we can do it. We would figure out the permitting to get it all done. We got it done. But that changed the way that we started to see what we could potentially do. That money disappeared also really quick because we were just trying to survive. But then we knew that we had to throw one more event because that partnership and the other partnerships that we started to have discussions with needed to see what else we can do. And is it just going to be Venice Beach? Because we started to realize one event, especially of that scale, but then also community events became more valuable to them.
Sure.
That's why we got into that situation, though, where we pretty much were just taking out these small loans and wherever we could, putting things on credit cards, going into November of 2019 to run that event. That was Painkllr San Diego.
That's all very familiar to me. Like, because like we came down here, and I've told this story so many times, but we came down here and I lost my job that moved us here from Ohio.
Wow.
This is almost 17 years ago. And we like immediately went and got unemployment and food stamps. And that's how I built my business. And they give you a allotted amount of time. I want to say it might've been 3 months.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I got 3 months to get this thing off the ground. What does it look like? And you just have to dig in. Your back's up against the wall. Like,
You get real creative and resourceful.
Honestly, sometimes we feel like that's just when the best creativity comes out, when we're stuck in those moments. And sometimes, obviously, when things are good, we kind of just want to go back.
Well, yeah, I mean, that to me is an entrepreneurial message that everyone needs to hear, is that even if you've got money in the bank and things seemingly are going good, if you're looking for inspiration, what does it look like to, like, in your brain, put your back against the wall? What does that look like? To solve a problem that might not be there. You get better at it over time, and it's not nearly as scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
You actually you start to look forward to it, right? Because that's where you find change. But I'm also familiar with what you're describing.
I wish that I could remember this book, but it talked about that. It said that if you look at how success goes, the difference between success and people who just kind of give up along the way, or businesses that go stagnant and then they fail, it has to do with the fact that they stop doing everything that got them there.
Right. 100%.
And that goes down to the create, because we definitely have had moments like that. Once 2019 passed through, we had closed the largest contract we ever had in terms of a sponsorship in February of 2020, before everything shut down, and they paid in full.
Yeah.
And then we started organizing calls to do kickoff, discovery. We were looking at flights to go down there and meet with their entire team at HQ. And then 2 weeks into that, they call us and said, hold off. Something's going on. We're banning all travel right now internally as a company or an organization. And then 2 weeks later, that's when COVID shut everything down.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. But that set up the trajectory, right? So if it wasn't for 2019 and going through those and taking those risks,
it didn't freak us out at all. We're just like, okay, we got to figure it out.
Yeah. That's the tough part. That's where I kind of wish Roy was here right now, because Roy actually, he owns a clothing line called Barga Voodoo, and he's got a very similar story of how he got through COVID. It's the pivot, and it's just such a cool story to hear him tell it too. But y'all shared that coming from the apparel, the apparel world. So those are big things, right? You've weathered a ton of stuff. Before we get into post-COVID and what you set up there, let's take a quick break, and I want to come back and I want to talk a little bit about the partnership.
Welcome to Game Day Men's Health in Green Hills in Nashville, Tennessee. We are a men's health clinic. We're doing a lot with testosterone replacement therapy. So welcome to our clinic. What you'll be able to do is get your blood work. We'll send it back to our in-house labs. We'll test your total testosterone, your PSA, and then your H&H as well. So we'll get those results within about that 20-25 minute mark. You'll be able to sit down with our licensed clinician and go over your results. We do a lot with medical weight loss, vitamin injections. We have a few ED services as well. And then we also do a lot with peptide therapy as well. And it is something that you want to move forward with if it makes sense. You should be in and out in about 45 minutes.
And we're back. Thanks to our sponsors, all of you, for making this podcast possible, including Defianceville. Guys, hold up your bottles. Say hi, Brian.
Hi,
What's up, Brian?
They don't even know. I don't even know who Brian is. I digress. Brian is the owner of Defiance Fuel, and we love him. So we've talked about the pain that, pun intended, that got you here. That your trajectory now is set up to be different, and you start really stacking some positives from this point on. But let's stay in the pre-COVID time frame here for a hot second.
Yeah.
What did this? What did this kind of, for lack of a better term, trauma in the entrepreneurial space? What did it do for you both individually and as partners? Like, what was that? How did you navigate that? Looking back on it now, what are you thankful for? What do you wish you could have done better? How many arguments did you get into? That's what I'm trying to
It
get
doesn't
to.
matter.
I think it taught me to become just kind of a overall better leader. I think a lot. It's like I said, I'm a stress ball and I have really high anxiety all the time. And I think he's taught me to just be just calmer and a better leader in moments like that, because it can be very overwhelming.
Sure.
Sometimes if you just go into your emotions, it doesn't really help a lot of the time versus thinking logically. And I think that's a lot of things that I've learned along the way. I've grown a lot since we first started. I think I've always been the person that kind of would go into his shadow just because I just felt like I wasn't a good leader.
I just like that a lot. I just need to put that out there.
Yeah.
But I've flipped that a lot since kind of growing in Painkllr and obviously going through all these moments. It was really tough, and he's taught me a lot, and just becoming that person who I am today. I'm still learning today, but I don't know. It was we've gone through so many lows that it's just, I think I'm comfortable in that space now. And I tell Con all the time, when we start feeling comfortable with the brand, that's when we need to pivot or do something else. And I thrive in those moments. And I think a lot of people get scared of failure. And I don't think failure is something to be afraid of. It's something that you can take and learn and grow and thrive in it. You could either choose to learn from it or you can crumble. So I think there's just been a lot of opportunities for us to grow as people throughout those moments. So
Yeah, I love that. What about you?
Can you repeat the question one more time? Because I was so caught up with what she was saying, and yeah,
So enamored.
I was.
With it.
still,
I was like, God, I love this woman.
Just looking back on all that pain, what were the takeaways? How did it affect you personally? How did it affect your relationship?
I know this probably sounds odd, but I think it made us a lot stronger. Our communication became way better in that time period because we were forced to.
Yeah.
I think when it comes down to stress, so my parents divorced, and the one thing that got drilled into me from seeing that was communications. Usually the reason why there's a lot of problems, and so, or at least that's how I feel. But I didn't want that to happen with us, so I overly communicate. Sorry, but basically, I think that time taught us a lot more about the business is the business. We are making choices, what's best for the business. It's not about our egos. It's not about what I want to be right. And to know that I have somebody that's going to give me her honest side about what it is that we're trying to create and go for. And I could also then present my honest side too. and know that we're not trying to come at each other sideways.
Yeah.
That was a big piece because we hadn't been put in situations that stressful before that required us to think of things that way. I definitely can say that at the beginning of our relationship, we probably had moments where it was more ego driven about like wanting to be right about something than it was about, knowing that we're doing this for us. What lessons I've learned? I'm not who I need to be yet. I think what got us to one point was the scrappiness.
Yeah.
And it allowed us to get to that point. But if we want to continue growing the business, evolving the business, that also means we have to continue evolving. I have to continue evolving. I have to develop new skills. I have to begin to shift my perspective on things in order to be able to make sure that we can hit those new levels. And that happened a ton in 2019 because aside from dealing with the financial stress of stuff and not wanting to let that bleed over into our relationship, it was also how do we make sure that this is our only option. There's no quitting. There's no other idea that's more important than figuring this out right here. And that actually, now that brings it to another thing, like focus. I didn't have that type of focus before. I used to be that person that would have all these ideas and want to do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then another idea would come in and I'd want to try to maybe do it on the side because it sounds like it could be a good fun project. But then, I think what it really taught me is, no, like focus is a skill. You can create an environment that allows you to focus a bit better, even when there's a ton of noise around you.
Sure.
But yeah, probably also how to get more gray hair. But other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's good though. We have a push and pull. Like we're constantly pushing each other in different ways.
Oh yeah, she actually is really good at this part because I have the tendency to dream a little too big sometimes, and it stretches us even thinner. Which in reality, I know in hindsight it's always 20/20, right?
Yeah.
But I think now we've understood where that balance is. Like to find out like when I can dream the way that I want to dream, but then she can look at the situation and say, hey, maybe we need to tone it down here and here and here in order to make the rest of it come together.
Yeah, you and I share that in common.
Let the vision fly.
Yeah, it's vision. It's all gas, no brakes, right? And then you have to have. I mean, if Roy was sitting here, he would tell you he holds my kite string, and I'm happy. I need someone to do that. But when the idea hits, right, it hits, and you're off to the races with it. Yep. That's very exciting. Yeah. But for every one that does go, there are 5 that won't.
Right.
And I don't think that a lot of people really understand that. They'll set out on one vision or one idea, and it fails, and they feel like a failure, and they go back.
You got to quickly pivot.
Yeah,
and I think that's something that we've learned. I mean, his ideas are always great, and obviously we can't
do
all of them, but I think it's worth trying if we both are agreeing on the idea and we try it. And if it doesn't work, it's like, okay, pivot quickly. Don't just sit in it,
Yeah. And here's something I can tell from sitting here that you're 2 different character types, right? You've spent time explaining to us what, on some level, how you both lead differently and how you both are contributing to this partnership differently. But you're complementary opposites. You're bringing something to the table that makes her sharper and then vice versa. And that is a great recipe for a relationship. Like that's just romantically speaking, that's what you want. As long as the end result is a positive result. That's hence the term complementary. It works really well in business. So yeah, congratulations on that.
We've made it.
We've made it 6 years and we're still together. Yeah. A lot of people ask us that question, like, do you guys argue? We're like, no, we don't actually.
There's bigger problems to argue about.
Yeah, there are bigger problems to argue about.
Yeah, you're focused in other ways, and what you've learned from the pain that you've gone through is those key things that should keep you out of arguments. One is how to mitigate your anxiety, and then 2, how to communicate better so that she doesn't get anxious.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you can communicate 3, like I assume you're not just getting anxious and staying on ball full of fury. No. I imagine you're communicating also, right?
I gotta tell you the one thing that did come up where I learned. This is why it's so funny. I remember our first Venice Beach event. I was so overwhelmed because I'm not used to like leading this many people.
I know exactly what it's going.
And I remember not everything was going according to plan. Like I said, I'm used to being in that now, but at the time it was just so new. I was kind of stressed out, and we had a team member.
Clocks were failing.
Yeah, everything was
batteries
just
were
not
dying.
working.
Generator died.
Our pets' heads were falling off.
Yeah, it was just
And I remember looking, and I went up to Conrad. I was like, I'm freaking out. Nothing's working. And he's like, you need to calm down. If everyone sees you freaking out, they're going to freak out.
Sure.
It comes from the top bottom. You got to pretty much
I was
hold
like,
your shit
just-
together.
I just told her, I said, take a deep breath. I was like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. And then we had a team member who was one of our head judges or something come up to us, and he was like, April, I'm freaking out. And I was like, take a deep breath.
Little echo.
And then he was fine. It was great. It
fine.
all worked out. But I think in those moments, I learned how to just kind of become a better leader and just like not freak out all the time. 'cause-
I've literally just told my wife that exact same thing just this week. Yeah, it's like when you see me freak out,
Yeah.
then it's time to freak out.
Yeah.
If I'm
Yeah.
not freaking out, there's no reason
Everything's
for you to
good,
freak
yeah.
out.
Right.
It's, it's what they tell you on the airplane.
Yep, that's what he
exactly.
says all
When
the
the
time.
stewardess are
Yeah.
freaking out, that's when you need
Yeah.
to. All right, well, you might want to text home and tell them you're not coming back.
I feel that way with turbulence all the time, man.
Yeah.
Like if the whole plane is bouncing around, but I see the stewardess over there
Back
just
there,
texting on
yeah,
her phone.
playing games on their phone. Yeah.
I'm like, man, this is nothing. It's
We're
fine.
good.
Yeah, they've had worse than this.
Yeah.
Nobody's flying, and the tables aren't just ruffling around, so it's okay.
So those are great foundational things. I think hearing how it fortifies your relationship. I like hearing that personally, and I don't know if anybody's listening that does, but I think it's awesome to hear how a relationship can weather those type of things, pivot accurately, but also you're not looking at failures as failures, you're looking at them as lessons, and I think that's really, really important.
Always.
And that will never change, right? Or no matter how big the ideas or the paychecks get, that is fundamental to being an entrepreneur. So let's get to the highlight reel. So you are now post COVID. You got I know some of the story, so I'm going to skip some of that already.
Yeah.
You got that one check paid in full, but you all worked together with that business, and you found a pivot that worked around COVID.
Right.
Start from there and tell me what that pivot was.
Okay. You wanna kick that off?
So
it's with the U.S. Air Force.
Right.
'Cause I was with Special Warfare specifically.
Yeah, we were supposed to host a couple in-person events, and they were supposed to be fully integrated activations. Like it was pretty cool. I think every workout was pretty much supposed to.
Are we talking about the pivot, or are we talking about the original?
I was just gonna give a brief of it was pretty much to do in-person activations, which is why we couldn't do it during COVID.
Sure.
But the pivot ended up happening, and because we were a digital brand as well, they were like, if you guys can come up with something. And
It's
Connor
because
and I,
all
Which is unusual, by the way.
yes,
First
of all.
we got granted that opportunity.
Yeah, because all the other events that they were involved with, NCAA, NASCAR, they had to refund the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we were like, we can't refund the money. We spent some of it already. That was it.
But yeah, Con and I think, like we said, in those moments, you kind of thrive in that opportunity to think of something crazy. And people that really know us know we're a little crazy. You have to be an entrepreneur.
Oh yeah.
So we just sat back and came up with this really cool digital activation. At the time, a lot of people were doing just online workouts, live workouts. And we're like, okay, how can we take this thing where everyone's online right now? So we came up with interactive missions. So think of what are those?
Imagine
games?
like Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Or anything that's military based game. But what we did is we worked these stories in and we filmed with them. But they were on their base. They filmed it in their training facilities with their fake villages, towns, and they had real operators.
Yeah. So we were telling these stories through IG stories at the time, and people would follow these interactive missions, but it was kind of like a live workout. So you'd be like, you would ruck a mile along with each other, and people would be doing this across the country. So it was
This is
actually really
cool.
cool.
Yeah. And there would be that would lead up to that story piece. But then when you have the mile ruck, no story would be posted for, let's say, about 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And then 6 minutes later, the rest of the story would continue until you hit the next block of work. But each of it was tied to what was going on in that situation. So, for example, the first one we did was about this operator, Robert Gutierrez. He got hit in the chest, so his lung had collapsed. So we had everybody within it say, put a face mask on. You're going to be completing the rest of the workout now under restricted breathing. And then they would continue on with the workout as they would go. And it would follow the whole storyline too. Like even to the evac, there was like 2 miles out. Great. Now you're also rucking 2 miles before you get saved.
That is awesome.
Still think that was one of the coolest things that we came up with.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it was fun.
From a reach and impression side, we were blown away with it.
Yeah.
But it was great. We did it for four weeks, and then they wanted to do another one, so we did another 6 weeks of it. But I think that was also towards the time that COVID started to, like, things started to open back up.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had to pivot again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the story business. And now you're taking Painkllr, and the workout that we did here last weekend was called Crucible. And I'm assuming that's themed because of the special warfare with the Air Force.
Right.
But what does a normal Painkllr workout look like? What's the Venice Beach workout look like?
Yeah. You want to explain that one? I mean, we'll both go on that, but it's, we focus very heavily on, just like general prepared fitness, functional fitness.
Sure.
Even though our backgrounds and our roots are in CrossFit, the one thing that we found within that space is that, people might disagree with this, but I think what CrossFit allowed is us to be able to hop into a lot of different modalities and be somewhat prepared, or just be able to hop right in without having to think about at least training that way for a while to do it well. But we also like the idea of being able to invite people from all modalities, whether they're previous athletes from high school, college, or if you train, or if you just go into a gym and weightlift, you should be able to come into what we do and test yourself a bit more. So what you saw at the Crucible is similar in the sense of just get down and do the work. But what you might find at Venice Beach, traditionally we've had 2 floors that are catered towards functional fitness, and then we've had 2 floors that are catered towards more of like a race or a circuit that you'd follow. But going into 2025, we've got some new stuff.
I was like, are you going to say it?
No, I'm not going
to
come on.
I'm not going to say it yet, but we've got some new stuff in the works, and we
had the
think it's gonna be
exclusive
great.
there.
I was like, wait, what's happening? But also with everything that we create and every event that we come up with, the sole purpose is to show someone that they can do it.
Sure.
That's the goal of Painkllr, to get people moving and showing that they're capable of more. I think whether you're going through something challenging in life or just anything, fitness is a catapult to that. You can learn something about yourself through fitness, and that's something that we do, whether it's competition or the Crucible course or even our women's only event that we do. We just want to show people that you are capable of more, even just by going through these tiny little steps.
Yeah, I think people forget what you find in training. The process, patience that it requires for you to just go in every single day. When you don't want to do it, you still got to show up if you want to see those types of results. And it happens over a long period of time. And so training to us is the exact same mentality that we think we had to go into when it came to building Painkllr too. And we think anybody, if they can just look at those lessons and apply it to the rest of their life, they can do some incredible things.
No, you're 100% right. Yeah.
And we test everything. Everyone always thinks we don't test. We test everything and make sure there's that moment where people want to give up, and we're like, this is perfect.
Yeah. Or they look up and they're like, man, this
And now
sucks.
we're done.
Yeah.
No, we'll add 10 more exercises.
Yeah. Now you got to do it in reverse. Can you imagine?
Oh my gosh. So you guys did Nashville. I know this is it this weekend. You're heading to Knoxville.
Right.
This won't matter for the sake of this podcast because this doesn't come out for a couple of weeks. What's after, what's next? Like, what are you doing before the end of the year?
Be at the end of the year, or do you want us to do it in 2025?
I want the
bit of both.
2025 scoop, but I don't think I'm going to get it.
We'll give you a little bit
little
about
brief.
2025 about what we got. But we have San Diego after Knoxville, and then we have our women only event in Los Angeles. That's going to be happening on November 9th. But going into 2025, we are going to be very active when it comes to the community engagement. So we have our Venice Beach event, which is going to be happening in August. That is our flagship. That is the largest one. And we are partnered with the city again. We've got some pretty great brands coming alongside that are going to be helping us create. I mean, I like to hope that it's going to be a doper experience every single year for athletes and spectators. But we also got training clubs that we're going to be activating on in Southern California, probably also Texas, potentially even Nashville. And then we will be doing 4 or 5 more Crucibles, as well as 4 or 5 Strong Looks different events too, which is the women only event.
I love it. And I know I might got a sneak peek of something else that I'm excited about that you're doing that I will not break on the show, but we'll talk off camera. I want y'all to come to the Music City Fit Expo.
That would be sick.
And I think we might be able to work that out and throw on one of these workouts as well. I think that'd be really dope. So, as you're as we're wrapping up the show here, can you just, maybe leave the people with something that your piece of advice from an entrepreneurial standpoint, but maybe even in a relationship as well. Like, what does this look like if you're speaking into someone else's life who's in that dark spot where they're like, yeah, I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul. All my credit cards are maxed out, but I got a good idea.
You want to go first?
You go first. I gotta think about this.
That curiosity,
Yeah.
that made you take the first step, and then knowing that you could figure out new ways of doing things, it gets hard to be that creative, and it gets hard to be that curious when you feel like you have nothing to be able to be exploring.
Mm-hmm.
But if you maintain that level of curiosity, creativity, you will find a way through. But it really takes blocking out the idea that you have nothing to be able to help you move forward. You actually have everything, and that's you. The thoughts, the things around in your life that help drive you forward, you can pull from that. It may not be money right now, but you'll figure it out.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that.
I said the same thing.
Ditto.
Ditto.
That was actually co-written.
Man, I don't know. It's so hard because when you're in it, I get it. It feels like there's no escape or anything like that. The only thing it's so cliche to just say keep moving forward, but like honestly, that's what it is. I have a lot of people in my life that are going through a lot of hardships right now, and the biggest thing is just like you just got to take that step forward. Mm-hmm. Whether you can see that you are moving and making, I guess, steps, it's just you just got to keep moving. That's it. You can't get stuck in those thoughts and in those. If you're not progressing and doing anything, you're just gonna get stuck there, and that doesn't show anything. So
yeah, you're not gonna make any progress by thinking the same things.
Yeah,
there was a quote that I just wrote. I'm not trying to plug myself, but I'm just saying it.
Please do. Your camera's right there.
It's just comfort never taught anyone how to thrive.
That's true. 100%. Yeah. I love that. Well, give everybody where they can get involved. Like, how do they get involved, and how do they follow y'all? What does that look like? And then speak to some sponsors. Like, this is your chance.
You want to go?
Do you go?
Name it off. It just seems like we're going back and forth. You can find us at painkllr.com.
Spell it out. Painkllr.
And IG's the exact same.
Yes.
Painkllr.
Yes. Personal Instagram. I mean, if you want to follow me, it's Painkllr spelled the same way. Painkllr. And then my name is April.
And then mine is just Conrad Mar. Shout out to the sponsors. Thank you, U.S. Air Force Special Warfare, for putting faith in us and working with us over the past 4 years. We've had the opportunity to do some really incredible things with them, so we're looking forward to even more. When it comes to another brand, Ketone IQ, also, we've had a chance to watch them completely blow up, and it's amazing to see what happens when you have some entrepreneurs that just love what they're doing. That regardless of whatever the situation is, they've been grinding it out for 10 years, and now they're really crushing.
Yeah.
I don't know, LSKD and Jim Reapers for also helping us out with the Crucible events is really amazing. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I know the sponsors are there, but anybody, even you, for willing to take some time to talk to us.
Well, 100%.
Because,
community.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, without that, I think going back to what you said at the very beginning, it gets lonely. And for a long time, the only thing that really kept us going is because April and I were able to talk to each other. But even at that point, because we were both going through the same thing, it sucks.
It gets dark. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it took a long time for us to be able to open up and know that other people are on this journey too, such as yourself, and to know that those feelings, we've all gone through them. Every emotion possible we have probably felt.
Probably all in one day too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's helpful.
Yeah. I love it. You guys have been here, I mean, maybe a week now, a little week and a half.
Yeah.
And I know that you've been everywhere. I know that you've been meeting with all people. I met with Stuart yesterday, and he's like, I just left, talking with Conrad and April. So you guys you came and you're soaking up the community, and you're taking care of our community, and I appreciate that. You guys brought something really amazing to Nashville, and we are here for it. So
We hope to be back.
Let's lock arms. Let's do more cool
Yeah.
stuff together.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm excited to know you, and generally speaking, and then also what you've created is so unique. So kudos to y'all for that. So good work.
Thanks.
Yeah, man.
We're not good with compliments.
Yeah.
We usually high.
We both like,
I wish I'd known that going in. I'd have gone harder. No. All right. Well, this does it for the show today. We thank you all for tuning in. Hopefully you grabbed something out of this. I don't know how you didn't. And make sure you go follow these two wonderful people and then get involved in one of these workouts when it's coming through your town. And then hopefully look for them at the Music City Fit Expo. I speak for Roy, who couldn't be here today, but we're super thankful for y'all and your support. If you like this podcast, please make sure that you follow it and that you share it with your friends. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. This is Ground Up.